Good afternoon and welcome to the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor. Committee Secretary, will you please take roll?
Assembly members Anderson, present. Carter, Cole, here. Hardy, here. Howdigi, here. Kasama, here. Miller, here. Monroe Moreno, here. O'Neill, Roth, here. Torres Fawcett, here. Yeager, Urick, Chair Marzola.
Present. Please mark members present once they arrive. Welcome everyone that is here with us in Carson City, anyone in Las Vegas, and those tuning in over the internet. Today we will hear 4 bills: Senate Bill 16, Senate Bill 44, Senate Bill 114, and Senate Bill 370. Before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping announcements. Members of the public, please can provide testimony in various ways, which are all listed on the agenda. When testifying, please remember to turn on your microphone to speak and off to listen. Also remember to state and spell your name for the record. If you have handouts for the committee, please provide 20 copies to the committee secretary prior to your testimony. Committee information is available on the legislature's website. You may also watch our meetings through the legislature's YouTube channel. I expect courtesy and respect in all our interactions, even if we may not agree. Finally, please put all of your electronic devices, especially your cell phones, either on off mode or silent mode. And with that, I will open our first hearing on Senate Bill 16, which this measure revises provisions relating to contractors. Welcome, Mr. Bihar. You may begin when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair Marzola, Vice Chair Howdigi, and members of the committee. My name's David Bihar, for the record. That's B-E-H-A-R. I'm the Executive Officer for the Nevada State Contractors Board, and I appreciate the opportunity to testify before all of you today regarding Senate Bill 16. As many of you know, the mission of the Nevada State Contractors Board is to promote public confidence and trust in the integrity of our licensees and also to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Some of the ways we accomplish that goal are by regulating unlicensed contractors and assuring that consumers and members of our industry have an opportunity to participate in investigative or disciplinary proceedings without the fear of being threatened, harassed, or intimidated. The purpose of SB 16 is to elevate the level of accountability for those who perform unlicensed contracting in our state and to provide stronger protections for individuals who may be threatened, harassed, or intimidated during the course of our investigations, a disciplinary matter, or a legal action with us. And again, to strengthen those measures, SB 16 proposes to amend language under NRS 624. The first of the changes in Section 1 of the bill relates to stricter penalties for unlicensed contractors. The language set forth in that provision would allow our board the ability to take additional actions against a person who's not a licensed contractor who submits a bid on construction jobs within our state. More specifically, if a person who's not a licensed contractor submits a bid on a job in our state in violations of the provisions of existing law governing contractors, and the value of that work to be performed is $1,000 or more, our board would be authorized to refuse to issue the person a license for a period of not more than 1 year after the date in which the person submitted that bid. The second part of the amendment to NRS 624 contained in the bill would be located in Section 2, and that would amend NRS 624.3016, which relates to causes for disciplinary action. That change would make interfering or attempting to interfere with an investigation or disciplinary proceeding of our board or any other legal action to which the board was a party through threatening, harassing, or influencing a person who may provide evidence in an investigation proceeding or legal action, it would be cause for disciplinary action by our board. So it should be noted that that would not prohibit somebody who might be a representative of a person from engaging in lawful action in the course of presenting a position or a legal matter argument or defense for a case. It also would not prevent somebody from enforcing their lien rights in accordance with the provisions set forth in the bill. Our current law, again, prevents or provides for the licensure and regulation of contractors by our board. And as a result of that, to provide some perspective, during fiscal year 23-24, our board issued 256 citations to unlicensed contractors. A significant number of those were as a result of actually out-of-state contractors who came into Nevada and bid on commercial projects throughout various parts of our state. And oftentimes those involved life safety issues, which are very concerning for homeowners and for members of the industry who do things the correct way. As a result of them bidding on those projects, many of those were significant in both size and dollar amounts. And during the courses of those investigations, many of the unlicensed contractors actually openly admitted that they only applied for licensure in Nevada because they had been caught by us. Countless unlicensed contractors also acknowledged that they regularly performed that type of work because it was extremely lucrative, and went as far as to suggest that they intentionally factored in the cost of potential fines by us, sometimes as high as $50,000. By doing unlicensed bids, and it was just a cost of doing business for them. So many suggested they'd actually been performing that work actually for years, and again, had only been finally caught because our board began initiating more aggressive, proactive enforcement to try to stop this activity. By authorizing our board the ability to refuse the issuance of a license to an unlicensed contractor for not more than a year after the date on which that bid is submitted, we'd be able to raise the level of accountability for those who profited from that unlicensed work, but we would also allow them, continue to allow them a future opportunity to become properly licensed in our state. The second change presented in that bill under Section 2 would allow our board an opportunity to take additional disciplinary action, as previously explained. The intent of that particular language would allow us stronger protections, particularly for those who were involved in a dispute without having to have fear of retaliation from somebody. Because many of the complaints we receive, or many of the complaints rather that we receive by our board, they regularly involve seniors and non-English speaking residents or pretty vulnerable members of our community. Our board felt it was our obligation to assure that anyone who's involved in those types of disputes is afforded a fair opportunity to seek a just and safe resolution. So in many instances, our board has seen simple disputes that quickly escalate into threats and harassment and various forms of intimidation because the circumstances often surround significant amounts of money, maybe work that wasn't performed, or a company that may have gone bankrupt, for example. In one ongoing matter, and this is an extreme example of this, we had an instance where numerous homeowners were verbally threatened on social media to not act against a particular contractor as a result of complaints they had filed against them for taking money and then just abandoning their projects. In the actual video, the individual making the threats held a drill in their hand and actually was challenging homeowners to meet them in person if they had an issue with their company. So that's the level of threat and intimidation. It's not that common, but we do encounter that, and that's the purpose behind what we're talking about today. In an effort to address those concerns, we again feel that stronger protections, those that are set forth in SB 16, would allow our board to discourage and uphold a stronger level of accountability, again, first for unlicensed contracting, and then also allow us to enforce disciplinary action against persons who threaten, harass, or intimidate individuals attempting to seek resolution with our board. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and consideration on this matter. And again, I'd be happy to answer any questions any members of the committee might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. And I just wanted to confirm, did you say 256 citations?
Yes.
Thank you. With that, we will start with Vice Chair Howdigi.
Thank you, Chair. And I just had a question. It was kind of triggered by what you had mentioned about people coming in from out of state to bid on these projects. And the bill says that, if someone comes in and they're found to have bid on a project starting at $1,000 or higher, they won't be able to apply for a license for then a year. Aren't you sort of encouraging them to just continue to come into our state and continue to just practice without a license, like until that year is up? That's the first part. And then also, The second part was, I know the threshold is set at $1,000, but I'm thinking like for local Nevadans, right? There's a big difference from a project that's like say retiling a bathroom for $1,000 and then a $70,000 bathroom remodel, right? There's a big difference, and yet the penalty is still 1 year for both. And then that puts a Nevadan out of work who maybe it was maybe it was just retiling a bathroom for $1,000, but then that puts them out of work for 1 year. That means they cannot work for 1 year because they won't be able to apply for a license. Have you guys thought about maybe a sliding scale? Because somebody who's offending bidding a $1,000 product versus 100, it seems to be a big difference.
David Behar for the record, through Chair Marzola to Vice Chair
You can go
Hadeghi.
direct.
Thank you. We do see an influx of people that come in from out of state. Oftentimes, they bid on those significantly larger projects. With respect to this bill, it gives us the discretion of up to a year. And one of the things we actually implemented last session is something called an informal citation conference. And what that does is if there is somebody that was issued a citation by our agency, it simplifies it. Before having to escalate it all the way to an actual disciplinary hearing, we have a very simple face-to-face informal meeting with each other, and that's where we can talk about, are you a first-time offender? Was this a minimal thing? Did we get something wrong, perhaps, for example? And that opportunity allows us to maybe keep the citation as is, amend it, or even in some instances, if we completely got it wrong, to withdraw that.
And thank you so much, and you're correct. I just reread the language. It's not more than a year, so thank you for that.
Assemblymember Cole.
Thank you for the presentation and for addressing the issues here. My question is in section 2, your new sub 14, where we're talking about the interfering or attempting to interfere with an investigation or disciplinary proceeding. And we've got including without limitation by threatening, harassing, or otherwise influencing a person. So because of the without limitation clause, my question is, what if somebody is subject to a disciplinary hearing or investigation and they decide to do the right thing and they go and they fix the person's problem, whatever the issue is? That corrective action should be perhaps allowed, and that's my question, because it is something that's allowed under NRS 624.301F as doing all of that. So is that still allowed, and can we add that in there, or do you not want them to do that at this stage?
David Behar for the record. So again, this would be a case-by-case example. So to your point, in a typical situation, that's the first recourse we would hope to obtain between both sides of an issue. Allow them an opportunity to go back and fix that. That wouldn't be considered necessarily threatening, harassing, or intimidating anybody in any way by our board.
And so that was what my point was with the without limitation part, right? So it's not just the threatening, harassing, it's in any way interfering or attempting to interfere. And that could be, destruction of evidence, right? Like if they go in and they re-pour that concrete pad or something, right? So that was just my question, if we can either get rid of without limitation or add in corrective action in sub A of that, if that's appropriate.
David Behar for the record. We would definitely be open to changing that language to apply that.
Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. I have a quick one. Is there when a contractor is submitting their bid and they're unlicensed, is there a way for the job site to check to see if that contractor is properly licensed?
David Behar for the record. Absolutely. In fact, we take pride in making that a very simple, quick, and easy process. So that can be done on a mobile device. Now we have an app. We also recommend that people go right to our website, and right on the front page of our website, we have a link that allows somebody to check a license either by name, license number, or by the company themselves. So it would probably take them less than 5 minutes to do that.
So I would take it, since you have 256 citations, are these job sites not going one step further and making sure that the contractors are licensed?
David Behar for the record. Oftentimes that's what we're encountering, and that's why we're trying to implement this.
Great, thank you. Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any, so I'll give you a few moments to step back. And we will start with support testimony of Senate Bill 16. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You each have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alexis Motorex, Alexis Motarex, with the Nevada Chapter Associated General Contractors representing commercial construction in Northern Nevada. We are here today in support of SB 16. None of us want unlicensed contractors bidding on projects or doing work in this state and would never condone harassment or intimidating behavior in the course of an investigation. We appreciate the Contractors Board desire to protect consumers and the industry in the state.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cade Grogan, Cadegrogan, and I am here with Ferrari Readers speaking on behalf of the Nevada Contractors Association. NCA represents the commercial construction industry in Southern Nevada. We want to thank the Contractors Board for bringing the bill. It will help enforce the state's licensing laws. We also want to thank the board for working with us on the bill in the Senate. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. AJ Delap with the Griffin Company here, representing Nevada Subcontractors Association. We are also in support of this measure, and I'll just conclude with that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, committee members, for the record, my name is Alfonso Lopez. I represent the sheet metal and air rail transportation workers, and we are here in full support of SB 16. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see any. I see you seated in Las Vegas. You may begin when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Jordan Cranebuhl. Last name is spelled Krahenbuhl. I'm the Executive Director of the Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors of Nevada. This bill helps protect licensed contractors that do things the right way under the law. This bill also gives the Contractors Board more tools to be able to do their job in enforcement. They do a wonderful job. Ultimately, all of this protects the public. And to address one comment that was made as far as the amount of the fine or whatever, in my opinion, the higher the fine and the stricter the consequence will force those people not to do it and to get licensed in the right way. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. My name is Robert Diaz. I represent the sheet metal workers of SMART Local 88. We are also in support of the bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, the public lines are open and working, but we have no callers to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 16? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, we have no callers for opposition at this time.
We will move to neutral testimony. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, we have no callers for neutral.
Thank you. Mr. Bihar, would you like to give any final remarks?
Once again, David Bihar for the record. Just in closing, I just wanted to thank the members of the committee again for their time and consideration on this bill, and we look forward to working with any fellow stakeholders on this measure. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Today, I will now close the hearing on Senate Bill 16. I will now open the hearing on Senate Bill 370. This measure revises provisions governing certain landlords. Welcome, Senator Taylor. You look fabulous. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Marzola. and to the committee, thank you very much for this opportunity to present Senate Bill 30. My name is Angie Taylor, and I proudly represent Senate District 15 in Washoe County. Give you a little background on this bill. This bill is about streamlining the process to obtain a new ownership title for manufactured homes. Manufactured housing plays a significant role in Nevada's housing landscape. It offers oftentimes an affordable alternative to traditional site-built homes, the stable ones, the permanent ones. Part of my district, in fact, has an abundance of manufactured housing or mobile homes. Many families have been living in these homes for decades, but they do not have ownership, an ownership certificate, and are reluctant to apply because it can be a lengthy and onerous process to obtain a new certificate or a new title from the Housing Division of the Department of Business and Industry. Presenting with me today is, you see Mackenzie Warren there in Las Vegas, and right here to my right is a constituent of mine who buys and sells homes and does a lot of business with manufactured housing. And he speaks so much about the long process, the extended delays, and customers and clients of his who have lost their loans as a result. So I'm going to turn it over, with your permission, Chair, to Jeffrey Beasley to speak a little bit about this, and then we'll go to Las Vegas.
Please remember to state and spell your name.
Good morning, Committee Chairman Marzullo. My name is Jeff Beasley, V as in Victor, E-A-S-L-E-Y, of Jeff Beasley Management. We have a PowerPoint presentation. Can we pull up the first slide?
Let me get it. Okay. Yep. Thank you. You're welcome. Let's go.
Okay. A lost title on a manufactured home is a common occurrence. Unfortunately, due to the age of many of the homes and the fact that the serial number can be scratched off, damaged, or worn off with time. In my business, in order to purchase a mobile home, a title is needed. Currently, there's a problem with wait times to secure replacement titles, which can halt the sale, negatively impacting the person trying to buy or sell the manufactured home, or the dealer trying to facilitate the deal. Owners that apply with the Nevada Housing Division for replacement titles can wait up to 3 months or more for a response for their new title. Senate Bill 370 attempts to speed up that timeline, helping owners and dealers alike. Homes cannot be sold without a title and can cause the purchaser to losing their financing or the deal itself. Senate Bill 370 would allow buyers and sellers to receive clarity in a timely manner to resolve the issue. The expedite fee is a voluntary fee and will allow people who need or want to have their titles processed faster done. I'll now turn the presentation over to Mackenzie Warren in Las Vegas.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair Marzola and members. Mackenzie Warren Kay, W-A-R-R-E-N-K-A-Y with Brownstein. I'm here appearing on behalf of the Manufactured Home Community Owners Association. MHCOA's membership is comprised of 176 mobile home parks. This is across Nevada. That consists of 17,000 spaces that house Nevadans. We view SB 370 as a tenants' rights bill, so it's giving those that own manufactured homes a faster route to proving ownership. The association was really happy to work with Senator Taylor and Mr. Beasley on this concept. I'd also want to acknowledge the Housing Division, who also worked with us on the bill. I believe Administrator Acroft is present with you all in Carson City. You'll be hearing from him later on. SB 370 is relatively straightforward, so it provides those two pathways for manufactured homeowners to apply for the issuance of certificate of title from the division. So the first provides for that faster title recovery process just in the normal course. So this is Section 2 of the bill. SB 370 will require the division to issue a new title or deny title to an applicant within 45 days. If the division denies the application, the division will provide notice to the applicant and the reasons for denial within 10 days. So in some instances, as you heard Mr. Beasley touch on, this is going to shave months off the process, really improve the customer service experience for mobile homeowners. This title recovery process will also apply to the bonded title process. You'll see that in Section 3 of the bill, just providing uniformity in the chapter. And finally, the second aspect of 370, which is addressed in sections 1 and 4, tees up this expedited recovery process. We'll work with the division in the interim to work through that. SB 370 provides that the division adopt regulations to set up this expedited title recovery process for those applicants that just need a faster route, and that would be in exchange for a fee. That's the bill, and Chair, we stand at the ready to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Committee members, are there any questions? Assemblymember Cole.
Thank you for the presentation. So my question is in Section 3, for someone who makes the application, it ends up being denied, and then they do a new application back with the bond or whatever it is to prove it up. Do they have to pay the fee again once it's been denied?
Angie Taylor, Senate District 15, for the record. Thank you, Assembly Member, for the question. You only pay the fee one time. The thing about the denial is sometimes it gets denied right now and they don't know why. And so this really requires that explanation to happen so then they can move forward.
Assemblymember O'Neill.
Bless you. Thank you, Chair. Senator Taylor, thank you for bringing the bill. Manufactured homes have been forgotten about so often, and I think this is just another example of how they're being neglected. But I do have a couple questions, if I may, Chair. The first, and maybe I'm missing it, I forgot my glasses, but you talk about a fee to get expedited service, but I don't see a fee amount in here, in the bill itself. So who will determine, and how will that fee amount be determined?
Angie Taylor, Senate District 15, for the record. I'll turn this over to Mackenzie Warren Kay because she's the one that worked with the Housing Division on that piece.
Mackenzie Warren Kay on behalf of MHCOA. Thank you, Assemblymember O'Neill, for the question. So the fee is yet to be determined. This is in Section 4 of the bill. It's open-ended, simply enabling us to set up an expedited process via the regulatory route, working with the division. And it's our understanding that in order to speed this along, it would be in exchange for a fee, which industry is supportive of.
I appreciate the answer. I'm not sure I like it because I feel like I'm buying something and giving you a blank check. And then my other, if I may, my other question is, this should be standard service. Why, if manufactured housing is here, I'd like to hear from them why this isn't standard service. I guess that, do you agree, Senator Taylor? That's my question.
No, absolutely. Angie Taylor, Senate District 15. Thank you, Assembly Member, for the question. We believe it should be standard service as well. But what we also know is that far too often, families actually have lost their loans because it is taking too long. You would say, this is just for people to do their jobs. But you know, they're like everyone else, they're understaffed sometimes and they get a little bit overloaded, and that's where the fee comes in. Is then if there's someone needs to do overtime so that this can happen, primarily so a family does not lose their home or a small business owner does not lose that opportunity to facilitate that. It should be, it hasn't been, and that's why we're here today.
I appreciate that, and thank you for the time, Chair.
So essentially, it's a service that we're paying for that then it becomes mandatory for them to do without an option.
Angie Taylor, Senate District 15, for the record. Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. Yes, the normal process would be they have 45 days to do that. But if it needs to be faster, then those in the business are willing to pay the fee to assist the families so that that can happen.
Thank you. Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. So if you want to step back so I can take support testimony. We will start with support testimony of Senate Bill 370 here in Carson City. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Good morning, or afternoon now, I guess. Thank you for the time, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Eric Clark, spelled E-R-I-C-C-L-A-R-K-E, and I'm the Executive Director for Nevada's Manufactured Home Community Owners. We're a trade association that educates and advocates for the manufactured housing industry in the state of Nevada. We're here to support this bill for a few reasons. First, it's encouraging to see the legislature take steps to clean up our complicated titling system, which has been a major hindrance in keeping good records, as well as having historically been overworked and understaffed. Providing an expedited process will help prioritize more time-sensitive title transfers. Second, this bill outlines a deadline for the Housing Division to deliver this title, which is a major improvement, as both tenants and landlords have frequently submitted paperwork for title changes and just not heard anything back. Having a statutory deadline will help a lot with this issue. Third, on a personal note, it's really encouraging to see the state giving some attention to the most affordable version of housing in Nevada. When legislators talk about housing, we're frequently lumped into other rentals and single-family housing, but the manufactured housing industry is incredibly unique and nuanced. It's rare that we get a piece of legislation focused on solving a manufactured housing specific problem. As such, I really want to thank the bill sponsor, Senator Angie Taylor, and other supporters for seeing this issue and being willing to take action to solve it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, David Dazlich, D-A-Z-L-I-C-H with McDonald Corano, here today representing the Nevada Housing Alliance. The Nevada Housing Alliance is the trade association for the manufacturers of mobile and manufactured housing. We'd just like to thank Senator Taylor for bringing this bill that offers clarity and an expedited pathway both for manufacturers and consumers of this affordable housing option going forward. I would also like to thank the director and the division for working on this piece of legislation. We believe this offers clarity and an expedited pathway that is beneficial both for the manufacturers and for the end consumers. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 370? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, the public lines are open and working. We have no callers to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone walking up. Is there anyone in Las Vegas? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, we have no callers for opposition at this time.
Thank you. We will move to neutral testimony. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral?
Thank you, Chair. Steve Acroft, Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division. Wanted to thank Senator Taylor, Mr. Veasley, and Mackenzie Warren for the opportunity to work with them on this bill. To address a couple of questions that you asked, Assemblymember O'Neill, just for clarity, you're 100% correct that it should be done quicker, but as was explained by Senator Taylor, sometimes there's staffing, database, procedural issues that cause the division to have delays. We right now are sitting at about a 2-week turnaround for most titles, and we're trying to get that to consistently be 1 week. So the idea is that hopefully this never gets used, right? That would be the ultimate solution. But even if we get to 2 weeks or 1 week, that may not be quick enough for some folks. And so to go to your second part of your question, we will be working with industry to determine exactly what that fee is through workshops and exactly what that timeline is. So define expedited. Is that a week? Is that a day? Is that 2 days? I don't know. So we'll be working with stakeholders to determine what those categories are and then get them approved legislatively.
Assemblymember O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate that. At 2 weeks, to me, that is outstanding service. 1 week is unbelievable service, I believe. How much is, though, the fee currently? What for the title?
Steve Acroft, for the record, I don't have that information. I believe it's, well, Mr. Veasley would certainly definitely know. Hang on for a minute. No, I'll say it. Steve Acroft, for the record, $60.
Excellent. And thank you, Chair, for allowing the question.
Thank you for your testimony and answering the questions. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, we have no callers for neutral.
Thank you. Senator, would you like to give any final remarks?
Thank you so much, Chair Marzola and the committee. Angie Taylor, Senate District 15, for the record. I just appreciate you taking the time to hear the bill, to ask some really great questions about it. I'm excited about it because, again, so many of the constituents in my district live in mobiles and manufactured housing, and there are many people in the rural areas that do as well. So hopefully we can be of assistance. People can buy homes and continue to build their lives and achieve the American dream. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being with us this afternoon. I will now close the hearing on Senate Bill 370. I will now open a hearing on Senate Bill 114, which revises provisions governing certain landlords. Good afternoon, Senator Pezzina. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you so much, Chair Marzola, Vice Chair Howdigi, and committee members. It's wonderful to see everyone. It was also great to see everyone yesterday evening at the basketball game, where I realized literally everyone was in better shape than I was. So wonderful to see you all again here this morning. My name is Julie Pezzina. I represent Senate District 12, which I believe the Chair and Vice Chair are very familiar with, as we all live in Senate District 12. And I'm pleased to present Senate Bill 114, which establishes enhanced safety standards for residential tenants. And this is a measure often referred to as Mia's Law. The law is named in recognition of Mia Marcano, a 19-year-old student tragically killed in 2021. And before I go further, I'd also like to share that her family and friends are on Zoom and will be joining in this presentation. She was murdered by an apartment maintenance worker who exploited key access privileges and entered her apartment. They waited for her to return home before abducting her and taking her life. Despite having a criminal background, the killer was employed by the apartment complex where she lived and had a master key, a key fob, that granted him access not just to her apartment, but to all apartments in the building. It's a horrific story, and it led me to sponsor this bill to increase oversight over who has access to dwelling unit keys. Before I go into the bill details, I did want to provide some background. According to the National Multifamily Housing Council, almost 40% of renters live in apartments nationwide, with nearly 6 million single women residing in apartment households. About 40% of Nevadans live in rental housing, with a significant portion residing in multi-unit apartment structures. Typically, landlords provide the key to a renter's apartment, but also keep a copy or have a master key to be able to access in case of emergency on the property for maintenance or when the renter vacates the unit and does not return the key. You may currently live or have previously lived in an apartment complex. In fact, raise your hands if you've lived in an apartment complex at some point in your lives. Yeah, most of us. But if not, just imagine you're renting an apartment in such a complex, and then imagine if that complex had an employee with access to a master key. And let's say that employee had a criminal background for a violent crime, robbery, sexual assault, carjacking. How would you feel about that? If the landlord of Mia's apartment complex had completed a background check of the employee who later became her murderer, that employee would never have gotten master key access. Therefore, I think the landlord of an apartment complex should at least know the criminal backgrounds of applicants before hiring a person for a job with access to apartment keys. Currently, Nevada does not have comprehensive standards for conducting background checks on applicants for a job in an apartment complex that would have access to that master key. This creates a potential vulnerability for the residents who live in those apartments. Following the tragic death of Mia, Florida was the first state to pass Mia's Law, followed by Virginia. These states now require criminal background checks for certain job applicants and establish other policies to keep tenants safe. In addition to our legislature, Indiana and Oklahoma are currently considering versions of Mia's law. I'd also like to share again that her family is going to join us on Zoom. I can give a summary of the bill. It's a very short bill though, so I'm guessing everyone's had a chance to read it, and I'd like to save your time and give her family a chance to speak instead. So with the chair's permission, is it okay if I skip the bill summary and just move straight to her family?
Yes, and then you can go through the bill at the end. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. First up, I believe we have Mia's mom, Emas Gabriel, who's joining us on Zoom.
Hi. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the Assembly. My name is Emas Gabriel. I am the mother of Mia Marcano, a beautiful soul who should be here today, living, laughing, and celebrating life with her family and friends. Mia would have been turning 23 years old on Saturday this year. Instead, I'm standing here speaking her name in the past tense because my daughter was murdered in her apartment, a place where she was supposed to be safe. Mia was full of life. She was a college student at the University of Central Florida, studying sports medicine with dreams of working in professional athletics. She loved football, cheer, dance, fashion, and her Caribbean culture. She was bold, independent, and had this light about her that everyone noticed. But on September 24th, 2021, that light was stolen from us by a maintenance worker with a master key, someone with a history of inappropriate behavior, someone who should have never had access to her apartment. There were no background checks required, no policies in place to control who held keys to residents' homes. That's how easily Mia's life was taken, and that's why I'm here. If Mia's law had existed in Florida back then, if there had been something as basic as a background check in place, my daughter might have still been alive today. What happened to Mia wasn't a random tragedy, it was preventable. That's the part that keeps me up at night. That's the part that breaks my heart every morning. The part that pushes me to fight, even in my grief. I am here because I don't want another mother to feel what we feel today. To live with this kind of loss, to wish they had one more hug, one more phone call, and one more birthday to celebrate. Mia law matters. It's about setting common sense protections so no one else falls through the cracks of a broken system. Please pass this bill for Mia, for the countless young women like her, for the families who are trusting that their loved ones are safe. Thank you for your time and for honoring my daughter's memory through meaningful action.
Thank you so much for being here to do something which I know seems impossible, to carry on her legacy. I think we're going to go to Jody Covington and then to Giselle Blanche.
Good afternoon. My name is Jody Covington, and I have had the honor of serving as the co-founder of the Mia Marcano Foundation, created in the wake of a devastating loss, but grounded in the hope that no other family has to suffer the same fate. Mia Marcano was a vibrant, intelligent, and kind young woman whose life was stolen far too soon. But out of her tragedy came a mission, and from that mission came this foundation. Our purpose is simple: to support families of missing persons and to advocate for real legislative change that protects residents and saves lives. Since the creation of the foundation, we've helped pass Mia's law in Florida and Virginia. And we're now working state by state to carry this effort across the country. We are here in Nevada because we know that meaningful change begins with local leadership, and because the work of prevention has no borders. What we're asking for is not radical, it's reasonable, and it's responsible, and it's long overdue. Background checks for those who have access to homes, clear key control policies to ensure accountability, tracking systems to monitor who enters and exits residential spaces. These aren't just policies on paper. They are protections with purpose. They are safeguards that could have helped save Mia's life and can now save many others. Through the foundation, we have seen how this law can bring peace of mind to families and raise the standards of what safe housing should look like. Our message is simple: safety should never be an option. We are incredibly grateful to Senator Julie Prezina for championing this bill, and to the lawmakers here today for giving it the attention and urgency it deserves. Mia's legacy lives on in the lives that we protect. And I'm going to say that again. Mia's legacy lives on in the lives that we protect, in the parents that we spare from grief, and in the system that we strengthen together. Thank you for helping us make that vision a reality in Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Giselle, when you're ready, we would love to hear from you and thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Assembly. My name is Giselle Blanche, and I'm here on behalf of Marlon Marcano, Mia's father. Marlon could not be here with us today. I've stood beside him through the aftermath of this tragedy, and I want to share with you what he has carried every single day since his daughter's death. For Marlon, losing his daughter wasn't just painful, it was life-shattering and life-altering. Hours before she was killed, they spoke. They laughed, they made plans. She was packing to come visit. He told her he loved her, she told him the same. The plane arrived, but she didn't. And now, every day since, he wakes up with a hole in his heart and a mission in his soul. People often say to us they can't imagine how we feel. My answer is always don't. It's nothing to imagine. This mission is to make sure no other family, no other father has to feel what he feels, the kind of grief that comes from knowing your daughter's death could have been prevented with something as basic as a background check. Mia was vibrant. She loved music and dancing. She adored her family. She had dreams. She had plans. She had a life ahead of her. She was loved. She is missed. That life was taken in a moment by someone with a key, unchecked and unaccountable. The damage didn't end when Mia was taken. The ripple effects of that loss lives on in her father, in her family, and everyone who loved her. Birthdays are no longer celebrations. They are now pain-filled memorials. Holidays feel empty. There's always an unoccupied seat at the table. We've channeled our pain into purpose, supporting the Mia Marcano Foundation and sharing her story to protect others. But we shouldn't have to, no one should. Please pass Mia's law. That's what we should do, which we should have done years ago, create real preventative protection so this never happens again. On behalf of Mia's father and I, thank you for listening and for choosing action over silence.
Thank you so much. And your words carry so much weight, and we really appreciate you taking the time today to address the committee. After bringing this bill forward, I also learned of another family who suffered a loss right here in Carson City, and that was Sheila Jo Harris, and her family I know is trying to be here today. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to go last because I know they were racing to get here, so I'm hoping they'll have a chance to come when it comes time for testimony. And also, would you like, is it okay if, thank you so much. Please come on up.
Thank you. I appreciate you waiting. My mother is on her way. I'm not sure if she's going to make it on time. Okay. Okay. Thank you. My name is Shannon Harris, and I want to thank you for allowing me to speak today and share the story of my sister, Sheila Harris. I want to thank Senator Pazina and Mia's family for having the courage to bring this bill forward and for the strength in reliving such unimaginable pain so that others could be protected. It's been 43 years since Sheila was murdered in this very city by the maintenance man whose name I will not speak. The maintenance man who should have never been in this country, who should have never been in this state, and who should never have had a job with access to master apartment keys after committing horrendous crimes. But he was allowed to get away with all of these things. Our system at the time failed us. But guess what? A simple background check would have revealed all of this. We would have known that evil was among us and that he would have never have had access to my 18-year-old sister who lived independently for only 5 days. That day, 1982, changed our lives forever in unimaginable ways. My mom, Linda Bratton, my Auntie Jan, found my sister after she was strangled, raped, and sodomized and left for dead. While my baby sister, Jamie, at 6 months old, and I at 7, waited in the car of the apartment complex in the parking lot just down the street from this very location. We didn't understand what was happening, but we lived with the impact ever since. For 43 years, I've watched my mother carry the grief of losing her firstborn, the child who made her a mom. I've carried the loss of a sister I adored and that I looked up to every day and loved with all of my heart, one who should be by my side through all of life's milestones. That pain never goes away. The questions never stop. What would Sheila's life have been like? Who would she have become? If the protections in this bill had existed back then, I truly believe Sheila might still be here and would have grown up with both of my sisters. Instead, I was thrust into a role I never asked for, becoming the oldest sister in the wake of tragedy. That's the burden no child should have to bear. Please don't let other families suffer this kind of lifelong heartbreak. I humbly ask you to pass this bill and save other families unnecessary heartbreak. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for hearing from some of the families who've been affected by this. And this is the impetus for why I'm bringing this bill forward, to share a summary. Senate Bill 114 adds a new section to Chapter 118A of Nevada Revised Statutes related to landlord-tenant law. The bill's provisions apply to a landlord of a premises comprised of more than 100 dwelling units on a single property. These landlords must establish a policy requiring applicants for certain positions to undergo a criminal background check as a condition of employment. I want to emphasize, only applicants for jobs that entail access to a master key must complete this background check. Applicants for jobs without access to a master key are not required to do this. This bill also requires a landlord to establish written policies and procedures relating to dwelling unit keys. These include the storage, issuance, return, and security of these keys, and depending on the key system used by the landlord, policies and procedures concerning the usage and deactivation of dwelling unit keys, which is necessary for keys that have an electronic mechanism. Finally, landlords must maintain a log that accounts for the issuance and return of each dwelling unit key. Finally, I want to mention that in subsection 4C on page 2 of the bill, financial institutions as well as real estate brokers and salespersons are excluded from the definition of landlord. I thank you again for allowing me to present to you today and for giving the latitude to have the families of Mia and Sheila be here before you today as well. Thank you so much. And I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Senator, for your presentation today. And before I move to questions from committee members, I just want to say to all the family that is here in person and on Zoom, my heart goes to you. I am so sorry for your loss. I can't even imagine what you're going through. But by you sharing your story, you're definitely helping save another life. So I thank you for being here today. And with that, Vice Chair Jauregui.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity, and thank you. I also want to say thank you to everyone who shared their personal story. I know how difficult it is, but it does make a difference, so thank you. My question is to Senator, just that very first section 1 subsection, it says a landlord of a premises comprising more than 100 dwelling units. Could you walk us through how you got to 100 dwelling units? Because that's quite a large number, and as it's written, a landlord of a premises compromising, that means all 100 units have to be located on the same parcel of land. And so my question is, I mean, we have corporations who come in and buy thousands of homes, right? And they have handymen who work those homes, who do the maintenance on them, or property managers, right, who have large portfolios for her clients who do the same thing. They have a maintenance person who goes and handles all of the properties. So the way it's written, that wouldn't cover those units, right, if they're not located on the same premise. They might be in Nevada, and someone might own 100 or 200 of them sprinkled throughout Nevada, or throughout one county, and so one person's addressing them, but they wouldn't be covered on this bill. And so could you walk us through how you got to 100 units, because that leaves out a lot of complexes, and then if there would be consideration given to maybe property owners or landlords who own 100 units that don't necessarily have to be located on the same premise.
Thank you so much, Assemblywoman. And Chair, would you like me to go through you or direct?
You can go direct.
Thank you so much. Julie Pazina for the record. So when we were drafting this bill, we looked at, I think I mentioned earlier that Florida and Virginia had previously passed laws. So we were looking at legislation that had been drafted before, and that's where we went when we were looking to draft this legislation. And candidly, that legislation was units of 200 or more. So we changed it to 100 to try to take more Nevada residents into account, but it was looking at legislation that had been previously drafted in other states and what worked in other states, and then lowering it by half, and that was where we got to 100. And I'd always be happy to have further discussions.
Assemblymember O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill forward. I've got a couple questions for you, but I also want to say I was involved in the homicide of Ms. Harris, part of the team that worked on the finding the individual. I just want to add, part of it, he fled and was actually able to commit an additional homicide in New York before we were able to file charges and bring him back. So my questions I would offer to you, when you look at rural Nevada, particularly with Ms. Harris, who was Miss Douglas County too, I've just got to throw that in, and her father was a friend of ours as a Douglas County sheriff deputy. So it's really personal. But when I think about the rurals, a 100-unit complex is really quite large for us. And I would ask that you consider, I know it's late in the game, and the best way to kill a bill, they always say, is to amend it. So I just offer to you to lower the number, and also, if possible, if you do that for an amendment, could you add my name to it? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember, and thank you for the work that you've done. And I know that means the world to Ms. Harris and her family. Yes, I will look into that, and thank you so much to you and to Assemblymember Howdagi for making those suggestions. Thank you. And I would be honored to add your name.
Committee members, any additional questions? Assemblymember Hardy.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for being here. I know it's really hard, and have to go after Assemblyman O'Neill is tough. I know we've mentioned a lot about specifically maintenance people, but I would assume, like, you know, there could be other people that have access. Like, I'm thinking of assistant managers or maybe leasing agents. Would they also be covered, you know, like if they have access to keys? It wouldn't just be maintenance workers.
Julie Pizzina for the record, and I'm sorry I forgot to do that earlier. Assemblymember Hardy, yes. Anyone who has master key access would be covered. In these two circumstances, I think we were referring to people who worked in the maintenance staff, and so that's, I think, why it got so many mentions. But yes, you're exactly right. It would be anyone who has master key access would get that background check.
Assemblymember Cole.
Thank you very much for bringing this. I'm going to try not to cry. And thank you all for being here to share your stories. So my question is related to what's the remedy for a violation if a landlord doesn't do the things that they're supposed to do, or they do run the background check and they don't care and they still hire the individual? I mean, to me, that almost would rise to criminal negligence, especially if something then happens. So I didn't know if there was, I don't think I saw anything in the bill that dealt with what the remedies are for anybody who violates. Thank you.
Julie Pizzina for the record, and thank you so much for the question. So when I spoke with my legal counsel about that, because I asked them something similar when I was drafting the bill, and my understanding, and I would welcome the legal counsel here to answer, but my understanding from Mr. Coulomé was that because these logs are kept on hand, law enforcement has the opportunity to review and take action based on those. And because I looked at language to put more teeth into this, but I was told that it wasn't necessary because of that. But it's a great question, and I had looked at adding more teeth to the bill until I was told that it wasn't needed, but I would welcome legal counsel to weigh in on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sam Kwas, Committee Counsel.
There currently really aren't any remedies for this in the bill as written. So if there are specific measures and consequences that the committee would like, those should probably be amended into the bill. I'm not exactly sure. I can consult with Mr. Colomé about what he told you exactly. But obviously, if there are specific consequences to be faced by a landlord who doesn't comply with this, it would be advantageous to amend that into the bill.
Thank you, Julie Pizzina, for the record. We had, and everyone can look on Nellis and see how it was originally written. We had some more language in there, and then I was told that it wasn't necessary because of what law enforcement, their rights and their privileges were when it came to those logs. So we can always look at that.
And just to some clarity, I know what you were told as far as the law enforcement, but that would help the law enforcement through their investigation. There isn't anything in the bill that would put essentially teeth, like you said, to hold the landlord accountable, right? So two different things. One is helping the enforcement officers through their investigation by being able to review such records, but that has nothing to do with holding a landlord liable, like my colleague says, you know, in case they ignore a background check and hire someone anyways, if that makes sense. So if we can probably discuss it offline. Thank you. Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. So we will move to support testimony of Senate Bill 114. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. I see you sitting in Las Vegas. You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola, members, Mackenzie Warren Kay, Warrenkay, here in support of Senate Bill 114 on behalf of Ovation Development and the Nevada Multifamily Alliance. For brief background, Ovation has built 53 apartment communities consisting of more than 12,000 units across Las Vegas. And the Nevada Multifamily Alliance, also known as NMFA, is a group of 6 apartment developers. These developers collectively have built, owned, and managed more than 20,000 units. We view criminal background checks for key holder employees as industry standard. We're happy to see SB 114 bringing other landlords in line that maybe aren't already implementing this. Maintaining a key log is also something Ovation and NMFA members already do. We're happy to see this requirement codified in NRS. We've been talking with Senator Pizzina on this one through the interim, so happy it's heard today. Residents have a right to feel safe and secure at home. Landlords play an important role in safeguarding that right, and we support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers at this time.
Jody, I was just told that you wanted to testify.
Hi, I actually had a comment, and I don't know the protocols to excuse this, but I did have a comment.
Let me, and I don't mean to cut you off. I'll let
Sure.
you in the final remarks make a comment, just so we can continue with testimony. Thank you. We will move to neutral testimony. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral of Senate Bill 114? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you. Senator, would you like to give some final remarks? And Jody, if you want to give final remarks as well. You can begin, Jody, when you're ready.
Oh, sorry. So again, I want to thank all of the lawmakers. You guys' questions, are ringing in my ear. The thing that I want to mention in my final remarks is what you mentioned about the landlords not, really getting in trouble for this thing. In Mia's case, it then becomes almost a civil situation, and the landlords take no criminal liability. And I think that I just want to say thank you for raising that, because to ignore a criminal background that has a young man that has, used explosives on school property and hire him, and this happened, speaking specifically about Mia's death, I genuinely feel that there should be some criminal liability for the landlords that ignore and bring people on that they know have criminal histories, and the like, especially violent criminal histories, as the young man that killed Mia did. So I just wanted to thank you for raising that, and I completely agree.
Thank you. Senator?
Thank you so much to Ms. Covington, and thank you so much to Ms. Gabrielle, Ms. Blanche, Ms. Covington, and Ms. Harris for being here today to advocate on behalf of their loved ones. And I hope that by passing this bill, we don't have to remember anyone else's name, and this never happens again. And I thank you so much for hearing this, because our home should be our sanctuary. Thank you.
And thank you. I will now close the hearing on Senate Bill 114. I will now open the hearing on Senate Bill 44, which revises provisions relating to financial services. Welcome, everyone in Las Vegas. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you, Chair Marzola and the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor. My name is Kathy Sheehy, S-H-E-E-H-Y. I am the Commissioner at the Mortgage Lending Division. I am privileged and honored to be here today to present to you Senate Bill 44. With me here today to my left is Zeliana Dari, Deputy Commissioner of MLD, and Sandy O'Laughlin, Commissioner of Financial Institution on my right. As a way of brief overview of the Mortgage Lending Division, we are tasked to regulate the non-depository mortgage lending industry and related professions. Accordingly, this entails a licensing, examination, and seeking compliance to enforcement of those that conduct activities as defined under 645A, 645B, 645F, and the registration for credit service organizations under 598 throughout this state. MLD has seen tremendous growth in the non-depository lending industry over the years, and with that growth and advancement of technology comes with risk that MLD currently does not have the authority to regulate or enforce. The financial institution has the responsibility and privilege to license, examine, regulate non-depository financial institutions in our great state. Senate Bill 44 will provide clear authority for FID to enforce the safeguard rule, which is necessary to protect sensitive consumer information and mitigate cyber risk. This bill has two components. First is the prudential standards for non-bank mortgage servicers, and the second is the non-bank model data security law. And as you can see on this slide, the provisions that each applies to. I will first start with the prudential standards for non-bank mortgage servicers. The standards create and maintain a sound financial condition and safe management practices which are essential for compliance and consumer protection. Non-bank mortgage servicers currently service more than 60% of the agency mortgage market and roughly 53% of the $13 trillion single-family residential mortgage market. 6 out of the 10 largest primary mortgage servicers are non-bank mortgage servicers. These mortgage servicers are responsible for transmitting monthly borrower payments to investors or loan holders, making them an integral part of the mortgage market ecosystem. This creates an obligation to both parties of the transaction, making the servicers responsible for efficiency, servicing the market, and protecting the consumers. During the 2015 legislative session, NRS 645 was created, which introduced and required non-bank mortgage servicers to obtain a license to continue to conduct this activity in Nevada. No changes to these laws since this passage. Over these 10 years or so, through tremendous growth in the sound financial condition and safe management practices have been put to the test. The state regulatory system is charged to establish effective corporate controls and consumer-focused responsibilities for non-bank mortgage servicers. These controls and responsibilities are only effective when they are enforceable. Currently, we do not have any mandates that would allow this enforcement. A national set of standards covering both agency and non-agency servicing is the most efficient format for these mortgage servicers that may operate in multiple jurisdictions. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are corporations under the conservatorship of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, FHFA. FHFA has the authority over Fannie and Freddie, but no direct regulatory authority over non-bank mortgage companies and servicers. The prudential standards presented here today is uniform to those that FHFA enforces over Freddie and Fannie. Therefore, we are not introducing anything new or different that the non-bank mortgage servicers would need to comply to. While Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, is a regulator of non-bank mortgage servicers, they enforce consumer compliance and protection, but have not established regulatory requirements or standards related to financial conditions of non-bank mortgage servicers. On this slide, you can see for the two pieces of the prudential standards that this for non-bank mortgage servicers would cover would be the financial conditions, which covers areas of capital and liquidity, and corporate governance, which covers areas of establishing a board of directors, internal and external audits, and risk management. Now I'll switch over to the non-bank model data security law. This model law is statutory language that establishes standards for data security for the non-bank financial institutions that operate here in Nevada. Adopting these standards will position both MLD and FID as proactive in addressing cyber threats and provide clear authority when examining and enforcing data security standards by leveraging existing FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, safeguard rule. Adoption of the model law enhances the privacy and security of consumers' personal information and is designed to help protect sensitive information and mitigate cyber threats. On this slide, here are some of the elements from the existing FTC standards for safeguarding consumer information. Would require companies to designate a qualified individual, required to train their staff, create a written incident plan, and there are several other elements as well. Here we summarize a couple of the key provisions. This is an existing federal standard as it mirrors 16 CFR Part 314, which requires comprehensive information security programs, a notification of notification events when unauthorized breaches occur to currently the Federal Trade Commission under the federal law, and with this, the State Commissioner of Financial Institution and the Commissioner of Mortgage Lending under this bill. State compliance requirements would apply to wide range of financial service providers, including private professional guardians, mortgage companies, loan originators, mortgage servicers, escrow agencies, collection agencies, student loan servicers, payday lenders, trust companies, etc. Entities must maintain their security programs as part of their books and records and notify the state regulators about notification events. Expanded regulatory oversight mandates state commissioners to adopt notification procedures for providers regarding security breach. And in general summary, the key benefits with this bill would be number one, consumer protection. Number two, operational integrity. And last but third, regulatory clarity. This concludes the presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to present this bill to you, and we stand for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Committee members, are there any questions? Assemblymember Cole.
Hello, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. My question is in section 31, when you're talking about the formal review of a covered institution and the risk management assessment that they have to do. As I understand it, the risk management has to be provided to you upon request. And so I'm just wondering what would trigger you to request that information from an institution that's covered. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question, Assemblymember Cole. Typically, this would occur during the course of an examination.
Can you state, can you please state your name for the record?
Sorry, Kathy Sheehy for the record. It would be asked typically during the course of an examination. However, if we need to open an investigation, this would also give us the authority to request the books and records for that as well.
Committee members, any additional questions? Assemblymember Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we go to slide 5 in your presentation, the last paragraph makes reference to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau as the regulator for non-bank mortgage servicers. And we've been hearing on the news of what's going on with that division, where it's open one day, not open, closed, folks are out of a job. Is there any other organization filling the gap as we go through this transition to protect the consumers?
Thank you for the question, Kathy Sheehy. For the record, to you, Assemblymember Moreno, the FTC does have it, and that's why we're citing to that safeguard rule that they have. But there are concerns with, as you mentioned, what's happening with the CFPB, and therefore this bill even more, I think, is important for us to consider to pass so that we at the state level will have the authority.
Members, any questions? I don't see any. So we will move to support testimony of Senate Bill 44. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in support? Don't see anyone. I don't see anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 44, please press *9 now to join the queue.
Good afternoon, members and chairman of this committee. My name is Kimberly Fergus, Fergus. Guess what? I'm in support of this bill. This bill is necessary and timely step to modernize and strengthen oversight of financial service providers in Nevada, particularly mortgage servicers and high-risk lending entities. In today's digital and interconnected economy, consumer data protection is no longer optional. It is essential. SB 44 aligns Nevada law with federal standards under 16 C.F.R. Part 314, requiring providers to maintain robust information security programs and report any breaches or notification events directly to our state regulators. But this bill goes even further. It strengthens corporate governance and financial accountability for large mortgage servicers operating in multiple states. These companies handle thousands of loans, and without clear standards for liquidity, risk management, and internal audits, consumers in our housing market can be left vulnerable. By adopting model regulatory prudential standards, Nevada sends a strong message. Bad actors will be held accountable, and responsible businesses that follow the rules will thrive. SB 44 is not about more bureaucracy. It's about consumer protection, transparency, and financial stability. I urge the committee to support this bill and help ensure Nevada remains a trusted place to live, borrow, and invest. Thank you.
Chair, there are no additional callers to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 44. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? I don't see anyone walking up. Anyone in Las Vegas? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. We will move to neutral testimony. Is there anyone in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? Don't see anyone. Still don't see anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, there are no callers to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you. Would you like to give any final remarks? I'm seeing heads nod. I will now close the hearing on Senate Bill 44. 1 minute recess. Committee will come back to order. I am going to reopen Senate Bill 114. I know we were missing a presenter earlier, so I am going to give her a chance to present. Just please make sure to state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you for seeing me late. I really appreciate it. My name is Linda Bratton, Linda Bratton. I'm Sheila Harris's mother. I'm here today to share why Bill SB 114 should be passed. My life and the life of my family forever changed in 1982. There was no law in place, and there still is not. My 18-year-old daughter, Sheila, lost her life because this law was not in place to protect her from a man who was paroled from prison early in California. Conditions state that he was to stay in California while he was on parole. However, he moved to Nevada very quickly and went to work as a maintenance man at the apartment complex here in Carson City. Given access to master keys to all the apartments, Sheila had moved to Carson City to be closer to college. She had been in her apartment for 5 days when I received the phone call from her work saying she was a no-call, no-show, and that they were very worried about her because that wasn't something she would do. I then left to drive to her apartment where I found her beaten, sodomized, and strangled. This man was in our country illegally. He was a suspect in several other young girls' murders. How many young girls could have been spared, and how many families would not have to have lived with this unimaginable pain we live with daily? I might mention we placed 3 locks on the inside of her doors, thinking that a previous tenant could have had a key made to keep her safe. not thinking that someone could gain access while she wasn't home. I have lost my place. I'm sorry.
You don't have to apologize, and you can take your time.
Thank you. That's basically it. I thank you for your time, and I beg you to please consider passing Mia's bill forward. Thank you.
And I just want to say, and I'm sure I speak for all the committee members, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for sharing a really, really hard story. I don't think any of us can imagine what you and your family have been through, so thank you.
Thank you.
I will now close the hearing on Senate Bill 114. I will now open up for public comment. Please remember to address your remarks to issues that fall within the jurisdiction of this committee. We ask that public comment be kept to 2 minutes. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to provide public comment? I don't see anyone. I see everyone leaving in Las Vegas. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Chair, the public lines are open and working. We have no callers for public comment at this time.
Thank you. That will conclude our meeting for today. Our next meeting will be Friday, May 2nd. This meeting's adjourned.